Welcome back to Leumi Financial Corner. With us once again, Michael Zaremsky, head of U.S. Private Banking, Bank Leumi USA. Michael, good to speak with you again.
Great to speak with you, Zev. Thank you.
You know, we've been talking about the economy, and it seems to be resilient. You have political issues. You have now the coronavirus. But yet, in spite of everything, the economy and the stock market seems to be very resilient. What's going on?
Well, I think the first thing to address is the coronavirus. And again, this veered its head a couple of weeks ago. We're starting to get more and more information out of it. And as I've made the point a couple of times, the market has been extremely strong. We've seen incredibly rapid rise in terms of prices and valuations. And I think that to some degree there's been an overreaction originally in terms of the impact of coronavirus on what's happening in the markets. A lot of times people are just looking for something to sell off. People start anticipating the worst news. As one of my former colleagues used to say, when Edison invented the light bulb, the news story was probably predictions of doom for the candle industry. So again, I think a lot of times negativity will, negativity will, lead. And again, given where we have been with valuations, given the amazingly strong run-up we've seen in the stock market, it's not surprising that we, saw a bit of a dip on that news. Fortunately, as it seems, there are answers coming somewhat quickly on coronavirus. There's stories that technological developments for vaccines are on their way. And also, again, when you think about how many people are infected versus, how seriously they're impacted of it, while it does seem to be a rather contagious illness, it doesn't necessarily seem at this point to be that dangerous of an illness compared to others. So again, somewhere along the line, there's some short-term news and information. But again, as I've highlighted, I believe that the markets are fundamentally strong, and that ultimately is what carries the day. And part of the reason why I think we're seeing so much strength right now, and I've done some work in the last couple of weeks, is, again, really just focusing on innovation. And when we talk about why the U.S. market is so much stronger and healthier than other parts of the world, I went back and looked and did some research into the Forbes and Boston Consulting Group lists, which highlight top innovative companies. When you look through the top 50 or top 100 names of the most innovative companies, generally speaking, 60 to 80% of those companies are U.S.-oriented companies, and a large majority of them are technology companies. And what I find really interesting about it is the market lead that the United States companies have in terms of artificial intelligence, big data analytics, and enterprise platforms. And ultimately, it's a lot of these types of developments that are really driving efficiency, market share gain, and other competitive advantages that help these companies build moats around their business. So ultimately, again, there's some short-term noise in terms of political instability or political discourse in this country. There's some short-term issues like something like coronavirus. But again, the rapid pace of change, I think, is incredibly important in terms of the long-term health of the economy and, frankly, the markets.
What I find very impressive, and I agree with what you're saying, is when you have the coronavirus or some other political situation, it's like a blip. You'll find something happen for a day or two, and then everything rebounds very, very quickly, more so than I think in years past.
Well, again, I think the question is there really a problem? And ultimately, since 2008, we've been looking for the next black swan event. And, again, when some of these things pop up and they're surprises, it creates uncertainty, it creates volatility. But we'll know soon enough if this is a true black swan event or, as you say, just a blip. But one of the other things that I thought was just fascinating is how quickly, again, the world of biomedicine reacts. And again, there's some reports out now that they're looking at some other, drug cocktails that exist as antivirals that may be very effective in terms of, vaccinations or other means of kind of stemming, what's happening in China. So the same way that we now have flu vaccines that help reduce, diminish, or protect people from it. Again, technological advancements and just the rapid pace of what we're now able to do in labs and clinics is enabling them to come up with what they believe may be some short-term solutions to help solve the problem. So again, as with most things, I think that a lot of the problems in the world, a lot of the problems that are out there for businesses, for people, for consumers, the answer to these problems, again, is going to be found in technology and innovation and, in the human mind, finding ways to better solve some of the problems that are out there. And again, I just go back to looking at the list of some of these companies that are on the top 20 in terms of, most innovative or companies. And again, the things that they're doing, the way that they're engaging, the way that they're reshaping the world that we live in, it's just amazing. And again, I'm not making any particular recommendations for any of these names because, again, valuations are a different element than the innovation. But again, as you look down through the list of names that kind of round out the top four, again, you're looking at companies like, Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft. And again, you think about how those companies have changed the world, how those companies continue to change the world. Really rather incredible in terms of what they're doing for, platforms, for enterprise, for big data management, big data analytics. And it's the types of products and services that these companies use and develop and then push further down into the system to basically increase, massive amounts of efficiency and create better user experiences and product experiences.
Terrific. And by the way, you mentioned innovations in high tech, including as far as a cure for, or at least to have a solution to the current coronavirus, coming up with a vaccine for it. I believe Israel's in the forefront of that too.
Typically, the technology and the development and the research and development in Israel has also been terrific. And again, in a lot of cases, it's because the cost of R&D in Israel and the freedom that a lot of those companies have to do development is, much more effective and much more efficient than it is in other parts of the world. So again, the deregulation of a lot of that industry relative to, what happens here in R&D is a very different regime, very different environment. And, again, that's one of the things that really enables them to turn quickly, to move quickly, and to, be at the cutting edge of innovation.
Michael Zaremsky, Head of Banking for U.S. Private Banking for Bank Leumi USA, thank you for being with us. Look forward to having you back again discussing some of these important issues.
Thank you very much, Zev. Appreciate the time.
And we're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned.